What is going on with y'all YouTube? It's your boy Blue J10 and I am back again with another one. We have to train ourselves and train our minds to be stronger than our emotions. I feel like it's so common these days for us to allow ourselves to be so consumed by certain feelings that we may get in a present moment. And oftentimes these feelings always lead to something else. I said this before in my other videos, but your feelings and progression isn't something that's stagnant. It's something that is either growing or it's decreasing over time. And the same applies with our feelings. You either feel something in that moment and it's going to continue to escalate, and your emotions are going to control you, or you're going to backtrack, you're going to correct yourself and make the adjustments. But just take the time right now to think about any poor decision that you may have made in your life. And I guarantee majority of those decisions that you will think of, you acted out of emotions. But the key to regulating your emotions and your feelings is being transparent with yourself, understanding where certain feelings are coming from, understanding certain triggers that you may have and things that put you in a position to react, rather than taking the time to think before you just act on certain emotions. But I spent a lot of my life allowing my emotions to get the best of me. And one thing that's really helped me overcome this version of being controlled by these emotions is really just learning how to live in this present moment, learning how to embrace your emotions and not, run from them. I feel like as men, and I'm sure as women, this is probably the same sometimes, but usually with men, we often run from that feeling or those thoughts that we may get that put us in a vulnerable state. And I feel like this all comes from us being men, us having and being held to certain standards. We cannot act and be in an emotional state constantly. So a lot of us, like I used to do, we may run from this feeling, or we may try to escape this feeling of being vulnerable. But the sooner that we learn how to embrace our feelings and understand where they stem from, the sooner we'll be able to diagnose certain problems that've been existing for as long as we can remember. If you live your life allowing yourself to be controlled by your emotions, you are always going to be in a position that you do not want to be in. And I feel like it's very important that you take this in. Think of the worst possible scenario that could possibly happen in your life. And I guarantee the steps leading up to you getting to that situation or getting put in that position would be you acting out of your emotions. There are consequences to constantly being in that emotional state. But I feel like as human beings, we can often get caught up in this bad habit of reacting. And one thing that I learned about constantly reacting to everything is the simple fact that majority of the things that occur in our lives do not require or deserve our full energy and attention. And if we are allowing ourselves to be controlled by life and everything that comes with it, we'll constantly be in the emotional state. We cannot control what happens in our life and the things that are going on around us. The only thing that we control is everything inside of us, the energy that we're putting out. But life and nature is going to take its course, and we got to learn how to really go with that and really just make the necessary adjustments. But if we don't give ourselves the time to catch on, if we don't give ourselves the time to really acknowledge what's going on, we're going to constantly be in this vulnerable state. But training your emotions is not going to be easy. Taking yourself out of the position where you're constantly reactive and deciding to not allow yourself to be drained by not only people, but the things that may happen in your life is not going to be easy. But you weren't put on this earth for an easy path. You were put on this earth to learn, to grow, and expand. And I'm sorry to tell you, but those things simply do take effort. They take you going through trial and error, breaking down, crying, whatever it may take in order to really get you there. But it is not going to be an easy journey whatsoever. I always like to say this, but if it's easily attainable, then more than likely it is not going to be worthwhile. Give me the journey that's actually going to involve me going through trial and error, failing, learning, making adjustments, and then capitalizing off of those failures. Because it's not about the destination, it's always about the process. It's not about the vision that you have and you see when you're on top of the hill. It's about the vision prior to that, when you're climbing, when you're failing, when you're falling. This is what you need to keep in mind when you're trying to gain a sense of control over your emotions. You're a human being and it's going to take time, but you have to hold yourself accountable, because nobody will. Nobody is in charge of you. Nobody is going to really push you to be the best version of yourself. And even at times where it may seem like you have people on your side working with you rather than working against you, you cannot rely heavily on that because you just simply never know when and when somebody may go. You can love the people around you, you can appreciate all the help and support, but you need to be the source. You need to be the person that you're relying on, because you know that as long as you're breathing, you're going to provide and be there for yourself. You're going to hold yourself accountable. You're going to do anything possible in order to get yourself to that next level. Increasing the awareness of your emotions can decrease the chances of you making irrational decisions. Once you become conscious enough of where certain emotions stem from, whether it's people that make you mad, whether it's certain environments that you may be in that trigger you or set off certain things in your mind that make you want to flip out, once you're aware of these certain things and you become conscious, it's much easier to make the necessary adjustments so that you don't have to put yourself in that position to be going through that. And I feel like the crazy thing about these spurts of emotions that we get, because we all get them, is just how quickly we try to just move on to the next. Usually when we make a bad decision, we try to overlook it or treat it as if it's something that is just going to pass. Really just trying to get over the fact that we did something that we may not agree with to cope and deal with the thought of actually doing whatever it is that we did. But rather than that, if you just take the time to understand what really went on, take the time to understand what prompted you to react a certain way, what put you in that vulnerable or emotional state that made you make the decision that you made, and then make the adjustments, your life will be a whole lot better. Before I do anything in my life, I take a split second to just think, what are the consequences of this? Is this something that's going to put me in a better position, or is this something that could harm me or put me in a worse position? And once you start doing this, not only are you just much more aware of what's going on around you, but you're more open to taking accountability for the bad decisions that you make. Because I know that when I go out and I make a bad decision, that I thought of the worst possible scenario prior to making that decision. I knew what would come with that decision that I made. So if things do go south, then I'm willing to take full accountability for my actions. We need to treat our emotions the same way. Just because you're in an emotional state does not mean that you shouldn't be held accountable. Just because somebody did something to you and you reacted a certain way does not validate it or does not give you proper reason to have made the decision that you made. You need to learn how to control yourself. You need to learn how to put yourself in a position to think more logically instead of just acting out of emotions, which could potentially put you in a position to ruin your life. You don't have the time to be sitting around stuck in this emotional state. You don't have the energy, which is extremely draining, just constantly being emotional and just constantly just having to react to everything that's going on around you. But the key to this is really just establishing healthy ways to deal with uncomfortable moments. Because usually why we end up being in this emotional state is because we get uncomfortable. Something happens that we may not like that triggers something in our mind to react in an emotional way, which in a sense, we're just uncomfortable in the simplest terms. So if you establish healthier ways to deal with uncomfortable moments or situations like that, it'll be much easier for you to train and cope and deal with the things that are occurring in your life. Emotions are extremely beneficial as long as you know how to regulate them. If you don't know how to regulate your emotions, then your emotions will regulate you. And this was one of my biggest problems for the longest time, because I'm just super defensive naturally. I've been like this my entire life. But once I learned how to just take a split second and just think, not react, but just think like, what is this going to do for me? Almost instantly, you snap out of that defensive mode and you allow yourself to gather everything and get right back in that state of mind that you should be in. It's draining to have to react to everything. It's draining to allow the world, and not only the world, but the people around you, to control your emotions, because that's all it is. Just think of you being a little puppet, and each time that you react, they're just pulling the strings and they're just controlling each and every move that you do. So really just gain a sense of control over your life. Allow yourself to, embrace these form of emotions that you may feel, but regulate them in a healthy way. But you have the ability not only to train your emotions, but you really take full control over your life, and I really just want you to understand that. But if you made it to the end of the video, I just want to say thank you so much. It's your boy Blue Jay Tay. Drop a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all on the next one. Peace.